Hello, everyone. This is Written in the Stars, and today we'll continue building my zodiac sign based fantasy world. Today, we are going to look at the flora and fauna as well as the natural resources of the Earth sign continents. As with the other signs, the major considerations for this will be the biomes that I have already picked for the signs in another video, as well as the general significations of each zodiac sign. The animals of the earth sign continents, as well as the plants, will most likely look like our plants and animals. They will be the ones I will alter the least, and I think they will also be used for a lot of practical purposes. They will be pets or livestock or just in general help in farming. For Taurus, we will of course have farming animals, we have livestock, and we will have animals that will be used for textiles and for food, such as milk, eggs, etc. For the insects, they could of course have a lot of bees, which create honey. They could raise silkworms for their silk production, and they could maybe even make use of dung beetles in their farming. For birds, they could raise chicken, ducks, turkey, geese, quail, or ostrich, or emu. And for reptiles, they could use turtles, crocodiles, and snakes for their leather or for their shell. Then for mammals, they could raise sheep, goats, pigs, oxen. They could use horses. They could raise buffaloes, rabbit, yak, alpaca, reindeer. There's a lot of options, and there could be just a lot of different regions where they raise different animals for food. Then for fish, they could have salmon, koi, oysters, or shellfish. It's a very food related sign, so anything that you can use for food purposes or just in general to create a home and make your life comfortable. So, like things that can, like sheep, where you can get wool from, all those things would exist on the Taurus continent. For the plants, we would have a lot of wildflowers on meadows. We would have fruit trees in orchards. We could have grapes that are used for wine. We could have a lot of grains like rice, corn, sorghum. Again, there could be different grains prevalent in different areas. And we could also have root vegetables, just like huge vegetable fields, nut trees from which they can gain oil, or also just like very long lasting trees such as oak or cedar, I don't know how it's pronounced. And for the natural resources, Taurus will have the most fertile soil, which creates an abundance of food. They will have the biggest variety of food, and they will also have a lot of animal products, dairy, eggs, fur, wool, leather. They will also have oils from the nut trees. And they also might have a lot of rough gemstones. Taurus is associated a lot with, I think, natural beauty, things that come from nature, while Libra is a little bit more polished, and they could trade the rough gemstones with Libra and have them be polished there. I think that would be a cool idea. But moving on to Virgo, animals for Virgo, I think, could be forest animals, but also domesticated animals, especially pets. We could also have animals that are associated with health, especially insects, which are beneficial for the environment. And we could also have a lot of humble but hard-working animals. Here I'm thinking of bees, ants, earthworms, and even spiders. For birds, I'm thinking of vultures, which use up the meat on dead animals, also bats and woodpeckers, which are really like delicate when they find their food. Then for reptiles, we have stuff like frogs and lizards. For mammals, we have otters, badgers, deers, wolves, beavers, especially because they build like dams, and also dogs, especially I think dogs will be good for Virgo, maybe even cats. And for fish, we could have salmon, we could have like krill, which are these like tiny creatures which are very like I think they clean up the rivers and stuff like that. Next up for Virgo, for the plants, we have, of course, a lot of herbs. It could be lavender, and I'm blanking on the herbs right now because I didn't write them down, but I could just get a book with a lot of herbs and use them for Virgo, and then a lot of healing and medicinal plants such as aloe vera, ginseng, again lavender, and I think also a lot of mushrooms would exist for Virgo. Everything that can be like they would be the most like nature focused in the sense that they're like picking different plants that would go into the wood and like pick plants that they can use in medicine and for other practical purposes. And for the natural resources, honestly, I have to like make an interjection here. Some stuff that I mentioned isn't natural resources, but stuff that just came to me that would fit the zodiac sign and could in some way be integrated. So, for example, in Virgo, I just jotted down complex writing system. They would develop the first writing system that's very complex. And maybe this could be due to them having the natural resources like wood for creating paper, but not everything I just write down actually fits the term natural resources. Just wanted it to be mentioned here. But they could create a lot of medicine from the natural resources. They could also create honey and beeswax. Well, the bees create the honey, but you know what I mean. And then they might also create cartography very early on due to them having like writing materials and also Virgo being a very detail oriented sign that I think would want to know where a lot of like herbs are. They would have to remember these places. So I think they would develop cartography. Then again, for the resources, they could create a lot of useful tools made from maybe wood or even clay. They could create pottery. I didn't write that down, but they could. And they could also create glass, like from the sand that they import maybe from Cancer or from Leo. And now we arrived at the last sign, which is Capricorn. For the animals, for the Capricorn continent, we could have animals which are adapted to cold climates, which are very protective of themselves, and also animals which are hierarchy oriented, as well as animals with a long lifespan due to Capricorn's association with Saturn. For animals, for the insects, we could have ants and termites. For the birds, we could have pigeons and ravens. They all have, I think, like a pecking order. Then for reptiles, we could have turtles and tortoises because of their shells. For the mammals, we could have bears, wolves, maybe even elephants, meerkats, deer, anything that lives with a kind of hierarchy, which is generally very common in the animal world. Also, fish, I think like killer whales live in the polar region, so they are adapted to the cold. And yeah, I think for Capricorn, the animals will be really scarce. There won't be a lot of them, as well as for the plants. Plants mostly will be evergreen plants like conifers, and they will be plants that withstand harsh and cold climates, such as moss or lichen. And for natural resources, they would have a lot of stones because it is a mountain area. They might have a lot of metals, gemstones, they kind of like granite, slate, iron, marble, a lot of hard rock. And they could have a very stable architecture, so they might really be good at creating fortresses. And this is maybe some expertise that will be sought out by other countries. They might also have a lot of minerals, as well as they might have some fur from like herding animals. But again, I think animals will be scarce, and through this, Capricorn will be very withdrawn. They might not necessarily engage in trade unless it is safe. They're very protective. They are very withdrawn, I think, living in their mountain fortresses and just hang around with their own people. So this is it for the earth signs, for the flora and fauna of the earth signs, as well as the natural resources. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. And if you like the video, please leave a like. And if you want to follow me on this world building journey, you might consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to watch the previous videos that I've done on the flora and fauna, for the different elements, for the fire, air, and water element, you can click one of those right now.